Welcome to the Unclehack Podcast, where dudes pretty much just talk dude shit.
Welcome to another episode of the Unclehack Podcast. For those that missed out, Sam Walker on the exclusive episode that just took place. Oh, boy. Always good to catch up with Mr. Sam Walker on the pod. Patreon.com/DangerCat69. Link in the description down below for an exclusive episode of this podcast. Past episode with none other than the sexual tyrannosaur, Sam Walker, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that's right. You hear that? That's how much he is beloved on this podcast. Upcoming stand-up dates, end of the month, we're heading out to San Jose, California, Brea, California, July 25th, July 26th, Los Angeles, North Hollywood to be specific. Ooh. Go out for a little late pride celebration with the fine lads. Might piss on some guy in a kiddie pool, huh? Yeah. July 27th in Pasadena, California. August 17th, Thunder Bay, Ontario. September 6th in Edmonton, Alberta. September 26th, Comox, British Columbia. September 27th, Victoria, BC. October 19th, Fort St. John, British Columbia. November 9th, Grand Prairie, Alberta. November 16th, Toronto, Ontario. Ontario. Oh, it's going to be a great episode. And December 19th, Oxnard, California. Yay! Tickets available at dangercatshop.com. Link in the description down below. Same with the Patreon. If you want to support this podcast, that's a wonderful way to do so. Hand me your hard-earned cash. I am like, I'm trying to run like a little bit of a dictatorship over here. It's not going quite as good as I anticipated, you know. It's moving along. It's going all right, I guess. You know, we go out, we take the stage, and we rant and rave, and we scream and yell at audiences, make them uncomfortable. With a lot of thought-provoking ideas that are inside my head. Like, for instance, you know, if a drag queen can wiggle his worm at a toddler, then why can't I watch my second cousin shower? Why can't I do that? All of a sudden, I'm a creep. It's all consensual, but why can't I do that? These are the questions I ask in my dictatorship role over here at the Unclehack Podcast. Very finite audience that would appreciate that type of, I guess to say, that type of ideology. You know, we like the simple things in life with this podcast. Getting floor-licking drunk, arguing with your aunt on whether or not her tits are real. You know, like, what, you know, the simple things. The simple things. There's too much sugar in this moonshine, you know? You didn't put enough rhubarb in it. What the hell are we doing? Those are the simple things that we like to discuss on this podcast. Why can't I straight pipe a GMC Sierra from 2002 and rip it up and down Main Street, annoying all the fucking fine people of the downtown core? Why can't I do that? Because we live in a dictatorship that doesn't appreciate that. That's why I'm right. I want to be the first dictator of Canada. You know, and speaking of dictators of Canada, a lot of people have a lot of suggestions on whether or not this gentleman we're going to listen into Big Trudy's Canada Day speech with one another. And I know you're already are you serious? But it's good. These are the things, these are important issues that we need to talk about in this country of Canada, you know. A lot of people push this guy to the side, but I think he touches on a lot of great points. Plus, I need him in office for another, 10 years so I can keep selling those t-shirts and possibly retire young. Very selfish in my own ways. But that's what makes a good dictator, That's what puts us in it, driving it forward. See, I'm a salt of the earth guy. I may not be a painter or, not admitted into a fine art school by any means, but I have spray painted a garage. I have done that. I have called my peers gay on a fence in a back alley with a rattle can. I've done that. Is that not worthy of is that not art to some of you folks? To me it is. But we're gonna start this one off with a bang. Not too often Big Trudy gets an appearance on this podcast, and it's very unfortunate, What a stupid thing to say. Of course, he is a star in our world. I love people that despise him and don't really have a real reasoning. It's just, I like folks that just they have a pinky toe in the water of being politically motivated. Those are the folks that I like because they are strongly opinionated and not very educated. Now, I might be in that grouping, and that's why I stand for you, the listener. I stand for you. I stand for the simple things in life that I listed earlier. And that's the joy of this podcast is you come around because you're going to get a simple take from a simple man. And that's the enjoyment. That's the entertainment of this. A lot of folks don't understand it, A lot of outsiders come in and we don't want those people listening to this podcast. We want to keep it nice and, we're Tabor, Alberta's #1 podcast for a reason. And we want to stay in that slot for as long as we possibly can. And we're going to continue doing so by driving home the messaging of a true dictator like myself. And I have been watching, this guy's trying. And I love that people just run, oh, this guy's a fucking dictator. I love that. I love that. I like emotionally irrational people out in the streets screaming and yelling. That's what I like. It's entertainment for me. I can't turn on any television nowadays and sit down and watch a scripted series. It has to be in the streets and chaotic, like the University of Toronto encampment. That to me is prime entertainment. That to me is the creme de la creme of content. You can only watch so much stuff that's on the internet that's scripted and sketches and I'm around stand-up so much, so I hear the writing and it's a process to get to the joke to the finish line, and I appreciate that process. But there's something just so unique and flavorful of a mentally unstable individual and a camera in their face. That's why like these street interviews of drunks are so popular right now, because it's off the cuff. You can appreciate just an in the moment viral video. Like the Hawk Tour. That took off. Everybody went nuts. And they're like, oh, man, the men love this girl. Yeah, that's hilarious. We loved it. We propped her up because it's funny. She spit on that thing. We got excited. Just a simple woman, simple line, shot her to stardom. It's how it should be. It's how it should be. Similar to the Oilers girl. Dumps her cans. Everybody appreciates it. We're like fucking, gets a standing ovation wherever she goes. Walks into a goddamn karaoke bar in Grand Prairie. People on their feet, giving her a clap. We salute you. It's amazing what a pair of guns will do. Just a solid pair of guns will get the folks going. It's been how many weeks and I'm still talking about it. The Haktua girl does her thing. And now she's like getting brought on stage with Shaq, doing interviews with Barstool, These are the people we need to make famous. I'm tired. Tired of TikTokers dancing in the aisles of Walmarts, you know? You should be allowed to assault a TikToker once a day. Once a day. It's like a deer tag. You should be allowed, if you see somebody dancing in public, you're allowed to assault them. Why? I don't know. There's just something so infuriating seeing it live in the flesh of like dance moves and a tripod and a camera out in public. It shouldn't upset me, but it does. And I turn into an angry father, you know, that just heard that his son got cut from a AA team. You know, like my daughter got fucking railed by the whole offensive line on the high school football team. And I got to grip my steering wheel because I can't say anything. I can't reach back and sock her. You know, so we need a relief of that frustration, even like political relief. And I think TikTokers are the prime people, you know, to do so. Social media influencers, whoever it may be, those need to be the prime targets to relieve a little bit of this stress that we're all going through. We as Canadians are feeling it. I imagine the Americans are feeling it. The price of inflation's going up. Food's costing more. Rent prices are out of control. It's practically impossible to find a goddamn job, according to a lot of people, right? It's very hard to get a freaking job. Bankruptcy is on the rise here in Canada. We're really looking down the barrel right now. You know, I imagine like there's got to be at least 2,400 new jobs at like the Maids Hotline Center. You know, you imagine that. Imagine you call the Maids line and it's an Indian call center. That's to schedule an appointment to kill yourself. You have to hit up the Indian call center. I don't really want to do the accent, but I feel like it's necessary. This is going to get clipped and put on. Hello. Would you like to kill yourself today? Would you like to kill it? What? Would you like to kill yourself today? Yes. Can I get service in English? What do you say? Pardon? What do you say? What do I say? I say I want to kill myself. What is the reason? I can't find a job. I can't afford rent. Oh my goodness. Everybody call. Why do you want to kill yourself? Why not just live? They're trying to talk you off the wagon. Just go. What would you like? Would you like rope? Or injection? I got 4 of those boosters, but it didn't really speed up the process of this myocarditis. I'm slowly dying. Give me the lethal one. What's the bird flu pandemic all about that I'm reading? Where's the vaccine for that? Is that going to make me drop dead? Or at least speed up Alzheimer's in my skull. I want Alzheimer's by the time I'm 36 so I can forget this. I want to wander around like Joe Biden trying to sniff out an ice cream or a child's lock of hair. That's what I want to do. Can you do that for me, sir? Well, I don't know. Fuck. And you got to get into a screaming match. You know, everybody's slightly, I feel like everybody's just kind of getting a little bit more racist. Everybody's just kind of getting a slight bit racist from all, you know, all political leanings. The left does it in a passive aggressive way where the right leaning folks are a little more in your face about it. But everybody is just getting a little bit more racist, aren't they? Don't you notice that? Twitter's lighting up. Twitter's always been a hotbed, you know. What do they call that? A dog whistle? A dog whistle for right-wing conspiracy theorists? Imagine that dog whistle in the park. Imagine you have a whistle that you could blow and then all of a sudden your conspiracy theorist friends show up and you can start having fun again. You know, wouldn't that be good? It's kind of like, I guess it would kind of be like, what the hell was the giant robot in fucking Power Rangers? Megazord? You just start putting Megazord together. Whew. through a little dog whistle, and all of a sudden, like, you know, they all put their hands together. You get like some leader of a neo-Nazi party, or what they consider as a neo-Nazi party is just like kind of an anti-vax guy get together, you know, an anti-mass immigration guy, and they all put their hands together to form this giant robot to combat all of this. Wouldn't that be a fun little cartoon? Megazord. The idea of it. Calling the maids program and getting an Indian call center has really got to be the most Canadian thing ever right now. That would be the most Canadian thing on the planet right now, wouldn't it? And I'm not even really, listen, I'm not even trying. You know, it's practically impossible not to even go in the direction of, you know, I'm about to say something. We're now like a little bit, more people are like kind of, you know, peeling it back a little bit and really letting the colors show. Like I just seen in Halifax that 2 lesbians got the shit kicked out of them by migrants or something happened. You know? Kind of funny. Kind of funny. A little bit funny. That the folks like, yeah, we need, are getting the shit kicked out of them. And then that right there, that's what I mean. Like, then you get like, that happens to you and you're like, oh, well, you start hearing the lesbians being like, well, maybe there is a couple too many of them. You know, they start like, oh, well, you know, maybe there's just a couple too many. Before it was nice when there wasn't a lot. We could contain it a little bit. You know, now I can't walk down the street and hold my girlfriend's hand without being boot fucked. And I don't mind getting fucked, just not by a boot. All right, let's quit messing around here. Let's get into Big Trudy. Big Trudy, my boy, my lover, my man. His big Canada Day speech. Oh, I love when this guy gets in front of a camera. The passion, you know, the showmanship. He is meant for the camera. Look at that. Starting already, right down the barrel, looking there. He's ready. We are about to witness a speech, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, everyone. Happy Canada Day.
Look
no
at the
matter
smile.
where you are, I hope you're celebrating the incredible people, the land, and the story that is Canada. It's a story that began more than 157 years ago with Indigenous peoples who've called this land home since time immemorial. It's a story of sacrifice. When Canadian soldiers stormed the beaches of Normandy, they knew they were risking their lives. But freedom, even for those across an ocean, even for generations of people they'd never meet, was worth fighting for.
Oh.
Our rights and freedoms are never guaranteed. They're safeguarded every day by trailblazers, journalists, activists, organizers, people who want to keep building a country where we can disagree, sometimes passionately, but where we always come together in the pursuit of something greater than ourselves.
What a wild thing to say. What a wild thing to say from a man like this, you know? Our charter rights and freedoms. The man that brought you frozen bank accounts. The gentleman that released the hounds on folks all throughout Ottawa to be trampled by horses. Primarily one horse made its mark and was made famous inside the RCMP by trampling an Indigenous woman. And we celebrate the right of that horse to have its own thoughts and opinions without its bank account being frozen. It can eat all the hay in the land. And that's why we celebrate this wonderful day we call Canada Day. We want you to feel welcome.
Risking their lives. But freedom, even for those across an ocean, even for generations of people they'd never meet, was worth fighting for. Our rights and freedoms are never guaranteed.
You hear that, folks? They are never guaranteed. They are never given guaranteed. And this is what infuriates me with politics, because this is a primed, polished, that there's a prompter right behind the camera lens, that this guy actually probably in front, knowing the technology that we have, unreal. This guy is delivering lines with passion, unscripted. This guy's a mess. You throw a script and a camera, a red light, no audience in front of him, where he can't get flustered by the boos, the clanging, the banging, air horns, fucking semi-truck horns. The list goes on. If he's not being heckled, this guy can perform his heart out. This is what you get when you get a drama teacher. Cutting promos, that are B+, A- quality, that can draw you in. There's a passion there with the words that he's saying. And I understand, I'm not supposed to be sitting here and critiquing this, but we dismiss this so often. We don't sit back and just enjoy the acting skills that this man has. And I'm sick of it. Do you know how hard it is to flip on this camera and pretend I give a shit? This guy can do it, no goddamn problem. No problem. You throw a camera in my face and throw me a script, I'm gonna fumble a few times. Christ, if any of you guys watch that news show, that holy shit, Nick McQuick and I do. Not that great. You see me reading teleprompter, not that great. This guy, however, he can feed you a ladle full of bullshit. And you're like, wow, I'm a little compelled by the tractor beam of his essence of this masterpiece, that I totally forgot everything that he said. And that, my friend, is what makes a great politician. The country is in shambles. The country is in shambles. Businesses closing down every day. Foreclosures every day. Bankruptcy filings every frickin' day. Opioid crisis riddling the downtown cores of Canadian cities. But this guy right here delivering you forget that that's even happening. And you're like, boy, oh boy. What's the number to that call center in Mumbai again, where the maids guys answer? String me up, Justin, and donate my goddamn organs to the Chinese. You got me, buddy. You got me.
They're safeguarded every day by trailblazers, journalists, activists, organizers, people who want to keep building a country where we can disagree, sometimes passionately, but where we always come together in the pursuit of something greater than ourselves.
Yes.
A country where everyone has a fair shot, no matter who they are, where they come from, how they pray, or whom they love.
Whom?
Those are the values that hold us together as Canadians. It's the reason so many people around the world save up everything they have and leave behind everything they know to be part of our story.
Let's get an instant replay.
Come from how they pray or whom they love. Those are the values that hold us together as Canadians. It's the reason so many people around the world save up everything they have and leave behind everything they know to be part of our story. It's a story that includes injustices, ones that we're confronting on our shared path of reconciliation. It's a story of learning that we're stronger not in spite of our differences, but because of them. And it's a story that's still being written.
You think he lost his mind about that plane flying in the background? Like, Jesus Christ, you're ruining the take. This is my best take. Was this a one and done, or did he go up there and perform this like 2 or 3 times, and then this was the best one, and then there's an airplane in the background? He goes, you know what? It adds a little bit of art, a little bit of substance, you know. Then people believe that I'm not just in a studio. This isn't just green screen. I'm out here. I'm with the people. I'm hidden well behind a very bushed area, trees. So we kept a small camera crew, so nobody really knew where I was, and we cut this promo to deliver to Canadians. Never misses the mark either to make sure that the whole truth and reconciliation. Now, it's a very touchy subject. I get that. And a lot of people shy away from wanting to have that conversation, but what an ignorant thing to kind of do, you know? What an ignorant thing to kind of do is just like dismiss the current Canada to talk about the past of like what he calls injustices, you know? We seem to fail to forget that, or we fail to forget. We actually don't fail. We blissfully ignore the true reality of those times of like people just crusading in ships to, you know, find new land and conquer more. Yeah. Like the scurvy was a fucking disease back then because you didn't eat a fruit. You know, people were dying of scurvy. That's the era they were living in. Dropping dead because you didn't have an orange that week. There was no vitamin C. You didn't eat an apple. You dropped dead because of it. That was the world then. Quite different now. Quite different now. And I just find it hilarious that politicians latch onto that. That really plays to the heartstrings of I believe a left-leaning voter. Is they want to passionately care about that issue without really doing much. Just by saying like, you know, we read a script saying we're sorry to the natives. We'll let you have a TP back, you know. We don't really care about the water situation and reservations, but I'll tell you what, before every NHL game, we'll do a land acknowledgement. We won't do a land acknowledgement before every puck drop. How does that sound? Sound all right? Does that sound good? Are we good here? Can we move on? Can I go back to my office, kick my feet up, and shove a Sharpie in my ass while I beat off the photos of my ex-wife? And the thoughts and imaginations of what is she doing now with that doctor? Huh? What is she up to? But I apologized. I went out there and I said, you know what? We're going to have a little truth and reconciliation. We're going to reconcile with the past that none of us were a part of. And that's going to be good enough for you people. You understand? And when I say you people, I mean everybody. You sick, twisted individuals that just walk this goddamn land. Every 15 feet, you should take a knee and point to the sky and say whatever treaty you're on 6 times and kiss the ground and move on. It'll kind of be a homage to how the Muslims pray, and we'll acknowledge the history of Canada while the new history kind of blends itself together. Do I sound like a disgruntled fucking white guy? Is that what I sound like right now? Do I just sound like every guy that's riding around in a pickup screaming and be like, there's too many! Every time I look over my fucking shoulder, there's 7 more of them. What the hell's going on? What the hell is this?
By incredible Canadians who step up for their community and country. From the workers and volunteers who cared for our most vulnerable in the long days of the pandemic.
Oh, God. Of course. Of course there had to be something in there about the pandemic. Of course. How stupid of me to think that the pandemic wouldn't have been brought up in this magnificent piece of content history. All the fine folks on the front lines of an invisible war that we didn't even know was taking place. I still see remnants of mass throughout the streets. You see this? You see these things? One floats by and it's like a fucking, it's like the fall of communism in Russia, and you see like communist propaganda floating through the streets, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? 2 years later, and you see a mask kind of flutter in the wind, and you're like, oh God. It's just like the end of a horror movie that leads into the sequel, Like something happens at the end of maybe a door creaks, and you're like, oh no, they're not gone. The ghost hasn't been captured in this flat. Get in the flask, And it leads you into believe like, oh, what's going to be next? That's what it feels like. And you see it now. It's like, oh, the bird flu. There's a bird flu. There's a fucking bat flu, bird flu. What's next? Can we relax on eating all these goddamn things? Is there not enough food? Is there not enough food? Don't eat the birds. The bird flu pandemic. That's what they're talking about next. But we got more important things to talk about.
The brave first responders who even now race towards danger to protect homes from wildfires. To the women.
And then the climate change.
And men of the Canadian Armed Forces who stand on the front lines fighting for
men and women? Men and women. Did he just say men and women?
Forces who stand on the front lines fighting for democracy and its danger to protect homes from wildfires. To the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces who stand on the front lines fighting for democracy and freedom. People. Brave, kind, resilient people. That is the story of Canada. That's what makes our country the very best place on earth. So let's keep making it even better. Happy Canada Day.
Oh boy, he is a showman, isn't he? That old Trudy is quite the showman, and that's why we respect him on this show. Nobody can get up there and bullshit like this guy. He's the best at it. He's the best ever. You're never going to top him. And then we're going to follow it up with another.
This year's
another little fun piece. We like to run to Canadian media. I find Canadian media to be the most entertainment out of, and Jesus Christ, the most entertaining out of all of them. Because the word said there with what they present on the channels across various news stations in this country really kind of contradict on where we're really going, how we really feel. And, folks get a little upset when politicians start talking.
Pro-Palestinian.
Hold on. There we go. Canadian pride on the decline.
Celebrations come as a new survey has found a decline in Canadian pride. More than a third of Canadians say they feel less proud to be Canadian than they did 5 years ago. Canadians were also...
Well, when you're constantly beaten over the head with this idea that you got to feel guilty about the history of the country, not every... I don't think that there's a single country built on, like, morals, okay? Nobody walked in and been like, boy, let's get together and make this place grandioso and beautiful. Why don't we, huh? No, it was a conquer and fucking expand era. The British Empire was like fucking everywhere. They were tapping into that shit. And then now, like, you almost have to feel like this. You got to be showered in guilt for having any sort of Canadian pride right now. With the number of government lies that are out there, it is a bit shameful. Your leadership is in the toilet. It shows in the polls how people are perceiving the Prime Minister of Canada. So it just kind of like, there's a very somber feeling in the streets of Canada. There's a lot of tension and anger. You can feel it. Like, look at the bottom here. It says, police seek suspect. Probes suspected hate crimes after 2 Toronto synagogues have vandalized. You know, it's out there. It's being perpetuated in the media to generate this idea that should exist inside your head that everywhere you go, there's probably, you're 2 blocks away from bumping into some white nationalist rally. That's what the media wants you to believe, right? And so it kind of, Canadian pride disintegrates then, is because you're beaten over the head to feel guilty about things that have taken place in the past, which you really don't have anything to do with. Now, do you think, correct me if I'm wrong, but when I wake up in the morning, the first thing that doesn't cross my mind is, boy, I feel bad about what happened 150 years ago when I didn't exist. God Almighty. Well, I guess it's time to put on a fresh pair of socks and go do that laboring activity that I have to do to barely make ends meet. That probably has a sense of decline in pride in the country, is going and busting your back just to barely make ends meet. That probably wouldn't have nothing to do with that. You know what? It has everything to do with how you should feel guilty about what took place in the past. And you need to apologize. And if you don't want to apologize, just do a very awkward clap at the end of the land acknowledgement at the hockey game. That's all you got to do. It is hilarious when they do the land acknowledgements at any Canadian sporting event, because it's a very awkward energy after. You don't know how you're supposed to react. I think everybody feels awkward with it, I think most people should feel awkward at the end, because it's just a weird feel, like, right before puck drop, where they get the whatever local sports teams chant, go, let's go Oilers, and you get that going, the crowd's pumped up, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, just a reminder, don't have too much fun because you are on stolen land. And then everybody just kind of, hey, yeah, right, okay. Oh boy, it's sure raining out there, ain't it? Holy, yeah. It's like when you're, the same feeling that you feel there is like when you're, one of your family members says a racial slur a little too loud at the table inside of a restaurant, and it's never, especially a Boston Pizza. That's where that occurs. If you're out on a Boston Pizza, you always get and you gather together with, a bigger table of family members, friends, or whatever, or some sort of gathering, and you get together. Somebody always lets one rip just a little too loud. It's a slur that just it turns everything like, oh boy, oh yeah. Anyways, you got to quickly change the subject and try not to address what just took place over there. That's the only way. And then you see that on the screen and they're telling you, hey, by the way, you're on Turtle Island. Oh shit, am I? Oh boy, well, what's the property value over there? Try and make a light joke out of this. What do you say, folks? Well, I got to go to the bathroom. Anybody want a beer? Beer? Anybody? Okay, nobody wants a beer. I'll sit here in an awkward silence with the rest of you and give a nice light golf clap, because I don't want to clap too enthusiastically, because that might come across like I might be a little racist, or I just might be a little out there, So I don't know what I'd be excited on the other side for, but if I was clapping, it could come off condescending, and then the whole crowd's going to think that I'm a racist. So, I'll just do it. Ooh, all right, yay. And then we can all carry on with the game.
Asked if they agree with conservative leader Pierre Poilievre that, quote, Canada is broken. 70% of them say they strongly or somewhat agree. Agreement is higher among younger Canadians. And joining us to discuss this further is Daryl Bricker, Global CEO of Ipsos Public Affairs. Daryl, thank you for being here. This survey is showing 70% of Canadians think Canada is broken. What is your reaction to this number?
Sad. My basic reaction is sadness. When I went through the numbers that we got on this survey, I was really concerned about our future and how Canadians are feeling about our country, especially younger Canadians, where 78% describe Canada as broken.
Now, discontent seems...
Well, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? Because 2 generations ago, your grandparents, I guess it would be their younger Canadians, depending on age here, if you're a millennial or younger, let's go with that. Your grandparents, 2 generations of family away, were able to buy a house for $12,000 in some areas. $12,000, they could buy a house and now sell this property for fucking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the location of said property. You were able to go to work and make a total of $1.75 an hour, support a family of 19 with that wage, and also take them on a vacation in the summer when school was out. Now these kids that you're talking about, 19 of them got to move into a 2-bedroom apartment just to make ends meet, and God fucking help us all that they're able to find a job that, probably would pay $1.75 like it did back in the 1960s. So what would I be so happy for? There's a crumbling education system that indoctrinates these kids into believing that foreign problems somehow need to be deeply rooted here in Canada, and we're going to put up tents because of it. That's how we're going to combat it. We're going to put up tents in the courtyard of our university to make sure that everybody knows that about the issues that are taking place in a foreign land that none of us, half of us don't even know what the river or the sea that they're fucking chanting about is, Half of us don't even, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. What river? What sea? No one knows. I don't even know right now. I'll tell you the truth. I don't even know right now. I'm not going to sit here and Google it. What am I going to do? I'm like everybody else in this fucking country. When war footage pops up, you just go, oh, holy shit. Anyways. 2 scrolls up. I got to get away from that. Where's the whores dancing on TikTok? Why are you showing me this shit? I'm trying to have a good day. Ruin my fucking day like that. Jesus Christ. Do you think I want to see a fucking hospital get blown up in fucking Tel Aviv or wherever the fuck that is? Gaza? You think I want to show some of them big titty IDF members? That's what I want to see. Put those on my goddamn feed. Just some giant knockers of fucking Jews sitting in some control center in the middle of fucking Tel Aviv doing TikTok dances, letting those big juicy knockers bounce around in an IDF uniform. Give me something to punch out. And I hope you understand, I wasn't condoning violence against women. I mean, I'm condoning violence against my genitalia. What a horrible fucking thing to say, Brendan. Jesus.
To be a growing national sentiment. Any indication on where this is stemming from?
This is where it gets good.
Well, I think there's 2 things. One, people are really feeling it difficult to get by these days. They're having a very hard time getting by.
Yeah.
And the promise of Canada in terms of our prosperity and security, at least what we thought we were told about the country we're living in, is feeling further and further away for Canadians. And then I think the second thing is really a whole bunch of things that have happened over the space of the last several years in which our political leaders have not really celebrated Canada, not really told us why we should be proud of our Canadian heritage.
Oh, that's
weird. We get a
weird.
lot of apologies. We get a lot of other things coming out of our political leaders, but not a lot of pride. And I think both things are coming together to cause a problem.
Now, are these numbers directly or indirectly linked to Justin Trudeau's leadership capabilities?
Well, I think that the Trudeau government is in a uniquely difficult position, but it would be going too far to blame them for all of this. Political leaders at all levels in our cities, our municipalities, in our regions, and our provinces in our country
Very
need to
diplomatic
take
answer.
the issue of Canadian pride, and I don't mean jingoistic pride, but just a sense of belonging together and a real sense that we're doing things well in this country. They need to take nurturing that more.
Well, here's the thing: is like Canadian pride was like. You remember those commercials, the I Am Canadian? It's like, the Beaver, we play hockey. Now it's too expensive to play hockey. The Beaver, where's he at? What's he doing? Why isn't he out there in the streets with the Canada flag waving this goddamn thing around telling fucking the Hamas supporters or whatever the fuck they're calling them these days, tell them to go home, get the Beaver out there, get a Beaver costume and say some kind of slightly, is it racist or not, some underhanded fucking, get him out there. Where the fuck is this Beaver? And then they're like, well, Tim Hortons is Canadian. Oh, don't you ever. Tim Hortons? That's what we're going off of? Tim Hortons? Tim Hortons is Canadian identity? A dog shit coffee and a crusty donut? That's Canadian. If anything, yeah, it's a perfect representation of the country right now. Tim Hortons that's the representation of Canada right now? Horrible service, flies on the donut, and burnt coffee that's been sitting on the fucking heating coil for what, 4 or 5 hours? Tastes like hot dog piss. You get that coffee and you get irritated. I don't know why people are still lining up cars and cars. You have to put 9 scoops of sugar in that goddamn coffee for it to even be remotely good, to even be even somewhat palatable. Somewhat where you can consume this. You got to put 9 scoops of fucking sugar in that stuff just to think, hey, can I get a triple? Who gets a triple? Double? What? That's how much sugar and cream you have to pump into that coffee for it to be remotely good. Remotely. And that's supposed to be our sense of Canadian pride, folks. Is a drive-through. A drive-through is what the representation of Canada is to the world. Hey, it's a fucking Tim Hortons. I thought it was gay when it was maple syrup. I'll say it. I thought it was gay when it was maple syrup. But I'll go back to the days of it. I took that for granted. I took the whole maple syrup angle for granted. And now I gotta walk around with my head hung low and be like, yeah, Tim Hortons. The fucking speaker's blown out on the goddamn drive-thru, and all you hear is I did for you. You're good, sir. No, I said a double. Tim Hortons. I said I would like a large double. What is that, the BLT on whole eight? No, a large double. A large coffee with 2 cream, 1 sugar. You want a yogurt berry? What is this you say? You want yogurt berry donut? You want what is it you want? Move to the second window. That'll be $48.99. $48.99. Second window, please. I didn't even order anything. Just come to the second window. Your order will be ready. Holy shit. That is a perfect representation of Canada. People arguing through a fucking speaker box. What? I say welcome to Tim Horton. Fuck me. And I know that is like most people hear that and they're like, oh Jesus, he's getting a little extreme on this podcast, and we're just having a little fun. It's the truth. It's the fact of the matter. We want to like run from the truth, and like this is the interactions that we have every day with these things, and you're supposed to feel guilty for talking about, this type of stuff, or maybe even making fun of it. Like we're supposed to accept it all and embrace it. And in one way, I guess I am by making fun of it because it has become a part of our culture. But I'm not saying that this is good. I'm not saying it's great that Tim Hortons is the representation of Canada. It's a gong show in there. How many times you walk in there and there's just a wet mop sign? Or a wet floor sign. Wet mop. Of course a fucking mop is wet, you dum-dum. A wet floor sign. Just every time you walk in there, wet floor. How's the floor always wet in there? What is going on in the Tim Hortons that the floor is always wet? Are we spilling that much shit? Are we that, like we talked about that lady going into the fucking McDonald's spilling her green tea. Is that happening everywhere? Is it just like a fucking Home Alone trap? Everybody slipping, falling. That's the maids program. You walk in there, you slip, you fall, and you die in a Tim Hortons. That's the maids program. You get a complimentary Timbit before your feet are parallel with the universe and your head smacks against that shitty tile that they have in there and you bleed out. They just drag body after body out of there. Oh, what a horrible way to go. Piss leaking from the men's washroom. Oh, yeah. And then fucking a million flies that have been just like floating around that honey glazed donut that nobody wants. Old fashioned donut. You know those ones? Stale as all hell. When the Ottawa Senators run out of hockey pucks, they're just going to use old fashioned donuts from Tim Hortons. Unbelievable.
Seriously. And I think we've been kind of cavalier and capricious about it over the space, though, particularly the last decade.
Is there any indication with this on what kind of changes Canadians want to see?
Well, no, we didn't really get into that, but I think that, we've seen things that work in the past. When Canadians get together and celebrate what it is to be a Canadian, and your broadcast today is a great example of this, coming from Parliament Hill and looking at the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force. This is something to celebrate, not something to look back and say, the Canadian Air Force was involved in wars and there's some difficult things that happen, some reckonings that we have to go through with the past. Yes, there's that, but there's also the other part, which is the pride of Canada coming together to create that Air Force. That's the part that seems to be missing in a lot of our conversations today.
All right.
Oh, weird. What's coming down the pipeline? You're going to see an increase in Canadian pride. They're going to start projecting this in the media now and trying to get everybody to rally behind the big Canadian flag as a war is on the horizon. You're not going to notice it right out of the gate, but you will slowly start to see an increase of some form of patriotism inside the borders of Canada. All in the form of like garnering support so that way when the missiles fucking sail over here from Russia, China, wherever in the Middle East, one of them's going to fucking get us. Then we can all gather together under the umbrella of patriotism and go to war. You're going to start seeing this. They're going to put little fucking, it's a breadcrumb. They can't, it's like, similar to, I guess, like the mass immigration that's taking place. It slowly, it would ramped up and then all of a sudden just like, whoomp, and you're going to see the throttle just open wide on that, on trying to just have some form of identity inside the country. Because I don't think that Canada really has an identity to the outside world other than, hockey. There's no real, our accent, I guess, no real true distinct traits of being Canadian now. It used to be a hoser-like type character in a Native American. That was about as Canadian as you could get. And now it's just kind of like this melting pot, and then we all got our own idea of like what Canada is, and we've went left for a lot of these issues, and it kind of hasn't really got us anywhere. We sit back and we apologize and apologize. And when I say we, like your federal government, your municipalities and your provincial governments all come together and they give these like phony apologies to where we're supposed to believe what they're saying. It's just kind of hodgepodge horse shit. Feel good nothings. It's them patting themselves on the back a little bit. Nobody really cares. Nobody really, oh, wow, thank you. It's the folks that want it, then they got something that they've been like begging for, and they move on to the next issue. And that isn't particular to any group whatsoever. But they get that, and then they immediately run to a new issue where you're like, you got to apologize for this. And the media doesn't help this, and it garners this almost, it just pulls these negative emotions out of people and just like perpetuates the feeling of being angry. And we really don't get anywhere with that. We're on the right-leaning side is like they're asking for, maybe let's slow down the whole immigration process. A lot of people are struggling right now to make ends meet. Rent is skyrocketing because folks are just fucking taking houses left, right, and center. You're seeing jobs, the job market, the scams that are taking place with a lot of it, like these diploma mills. And you're seeing a lot of... You're seeing a lot of criminal activity, and that's, it's going to happen when poverty is on the horizon. It's inevitable because you have to eat, you have to, take care of yourself, and you'll do whatever it takes by any means necessary to make sure that your family's doing all right. And that is understandably so. Folks that will go to those great lengths to make sure that, and it's nothing like personal. It's not like they're, advocates of criminal activity, be like, flashing money around. It's just literally to make ends meet. You go hold up a liquor store so that way you can pay rent. And you'll see that increase. But I have a feeling we're going to see an increase of like patriotism throughout the States, and as well as, internal temp gone. Well, folks, I hate to cut this episode short, but their cameras seem to overheat, and we will check you out next episode at Wednesday or Thursday at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Exclusive episode on Patreon, patreon.com/DangerCat69. All tickets have shows mentioned prior, dangercatshop.com, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.